what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it.
The spring portal window opened up on the 16th. It goes all the way until the 25th. So players on your team can enter the portal all the way to the 25th. Remember, they don't have to have their decision made when they go into the portal. They just have to be in there, and then later on they can make that choice. Tay, so last week with us being out, not players entering the portal from LSU, but was there any news surrounding maybe players coming to LSU? Any news as far as maybe LSU looking into the spring window portal, because they hit the fall portal window, winter window, whatever you want to call it, certainly as hard as they've ever hit it before. So I felt like last year, certainly there was more whispers of them. Well, not even whispers. They were kind of yelling that they needed a defensive tackle, where you've heard some of that this year, still wanting to add at that position. But there hasn't been a lot of, hey, we have to go get this position out of the portal.
Yeah, actually last week, Kelly met with the media post-practice. He kind of said the opposite. I mean, he says, I like our roster right now. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't have anybody in the portal on either side, either leaving our program or adding. He said, if you asked me right now, I would be happy to take this roster right into May on both sides of it. So to me, that sounds like, unless a can't-miss, a must-add player enters the transfer portal, Kelly thinks they're good. As of right now, that player hasn't entered. I mean, you look at the positions of need that you have, a lot of people are going to say safety depth. I mean, the name that people have mentioned is Terrence Love from Auburn. Obviously, he couldn't transfer over and play right away from that spring window because he's in the SEC. But Kennedy Urlacher's a big name, obviously, because of who his dad is. But, I mean, he's somebody that's kind of been a backup safety at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I kind of saw him attached to USC potentially.
Yeah, he has a no contact clause on him, so he kind of knows where he's going already. There's not a ton of good, big time players in the portal. I mean, everybody's talked about defensive tackle depth. It's kind of slim right now. Anywhere you look, O-line. I mean, I understand why Kelly said that. Unless there's an obvious guy that enters that is not in there yet, and I can't imagine who that would be. Like, LSU's probably good.
Yeah, if you look at the safety position and the defensive tackle position, what's currently available in the portal, there's not a lot of game changers in there. I'll give you an example. So Patterson from Miami, top-rated safety available in the portal window. He is ranked the 346th best player in the transfer portal. Like, both windows combined, but 346. Trevor Woods from Colorado, another safety, 497. C.J. Brown from Bowling Green, 531. So that's at the safety position. When you go to the defensive tackle position, 171, 215, 322, 337, 533 as far as overall ranking. So last year, you did actually have some, I think, Sunday quality defensive tackles. Now, they didn't end up being the game changers that they were aspiring to be. And they wanted a lot of money. They got a lot of money to go to Miami, to go to Oklahoma, to go to other places. But you don't have that this year. You don't have a top 50 portal player at that position, at either position, where you feel like you'd just be adding a body to add a body, right? And now defensive tackle, I think you want to add somebody that can change the math for you. You have the bodies there. Like, you have the numbers. I think you would add, if you had a top 50 player, then you could push all of your chips to the middle of the table here in this spring transfer portal window and go get that player. But that player's not there right now. Now, could you go do a deep dive and find a diamond in the rough that, we're not talking about right now? Yeah, potentially. You go do your homework and you go get somebody that's in there. I don't know, Alexander Whitmore is a defensive tackle in the portal, right? He's a 3-star transfer player from UNLV, okay? If that player is somebody that we haven't identified as a game changer, and he is, okay, sure, but I don't think that's the case. And so I think it's also a good thing that LSU is not having to be overly active in this transfer portal window. It's not to say that they're perfect. I still think you need a couple of different spots, but you're okay moving forward without that, without having to press. That was not the case a year ago. You were trying to press. You just couldn't get to the finish line because there were players that were getting paid almost 2 times what they technically were worth because teams felt like that was the missing piece for them to go be a championship team. And so you're not in that position right now. And when you look at what's available outside of just the defensive line and the safety position, there's a lot of edges that are available right now in the portal. And that's probably the position that is, I would say, the strongest. Like Bo Atkinson from UNC. That is a player that is a higher rated transfer than he was coming out of high school, started multiple years there. He is going to find a landing spot. He is going to get whatever his value is and probably then some. It's going to be a little bit of a bidding war situation. You're not in play on a player like that right now. You feel good. You've already made moves in the portal at that position. Another position that has some depth here in this spring window is the receiver position. You certainly are not in the market for a receiver. In fact, I don't know how you're going to get the ball to all the playmakers that you have. Embarrassment of riches almost. Again, a great situation to have. You have different receivers that have different skill sets, and I think it's going to be one from top to bottom. Now, you don't have a Jeremiah Smith, and that's okay, but from top to bottom, it's going to be as deep as any receiver room, I think, in the country. You're good there. So, like, where the portal is strong right now, you've already made those moves. You made those moves in the first portal window, so you're not going after an edge defender unless one just falls in your lap, which I don't think is going to happen because I think these guys are going to really secure the bag here. In the receiver position, like Trey Pena from Syracuse, hell of a football player. Now, Fran Brown came out and said he wanted $2 million, and he said the only guy that's getting $2 million at that position, in his words, is that homie from Ohio State, talking about Jeremiah Smith. And so he wasn't going to make that move. But it looks like Penn State is actually going to pull the trigger there on Trey Pena from Syracuse. But that's where the portal is strong. Like Micah Hudson, curious case of Micah Hudson, as I see Tate shaking his head. 5-star player out of high school, signs with Texas Tech, in the portal window, goes to Texas A&M. Tate, do we know if he ever even put on a uniform?
I don't think he
in College Station, like for a practice.
Well, and then remember, like, it wasn't confirmed, but he was the guy that there were a lot of reports, like the kind of outlandish.
Oh, he had to have a driver, right?
Yeah, and I mean, there were some people that were like, "Oh, well, that might not be true," but I mean, it was tied to him, and reports like that ain't tied to every player. And the fact that he left A&M so quickly kind of tells me there's at least some sort of validity to that. But yeah, Micah Hudson, I mean, that's somebody that I remember everybody wanted out of the portal, and I was kind of wondering why, because he hasn't done anything in college, but when you have the 5-star attached to your name, like kind of like Nico Iamaleava, I mean, going back to that, like when you have that 5-star name, you think you can get a lot more, and sometimes you can't. But to your point about, this defensive tackle room, I was looking at it the other day. I actually brought this up. Like Jacoby and Guillory returned to practice on Tuesday. That's a guy that's been on your team for like 6 years now.
Yeah.
Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley have been running with the ones in spring practice. Bro, I think, exceeded everybody's expectations and played with Kyle Williams in high school. Dominic McKinley was raw, but, I mean, he's got all the potential. You got Cider Mitchell from Texas. Shone Washington's still on the team. But you have 4 freshmen coming in the fall that were all decent recruits. I mean, Zion Williams, Dylan Battle, Walter Mathis, and Brandon Brown are all coming in the fall. All of those guys are defensive tackles. And if you're just looking at adding a body, you don't need to because you have 4 more guys coming in. I mean, that's 9 bodies right there between who's coming back and the freshmen coming in. I kind of think you're good there.
Now we'll see, 4 freshmen coming in, and we'll see if any of those players are ready to play. And not many times now do you get a player that doesn't enroll early, right? So you got multiple players that aren't here yet. How quickly can they get up to speed? Like, how quickly can they get on the field? Does their body need to go through a transformation? One thing we haven't talked about, and maybe you did when you were sitting in for us, Tate, like you go from Bo Davis to Kyle Williams. Like, we don't know that Kyle Williams is going to want the same defensive tackle that Bo Davis had. And like one thing about Blake Baker, he's going to give his position coaches like the ability to go out and recruit the kind of guy that they want. Now, within his defense, certainly, but I think Bo Diddley wanted bigger players. Like he wanted, an over 300-pound defensive tackle. Now, I don't know this. I hadn't talked to him about it, but maybe Kyle Williams wants a leaner defensive tackle. Maybe Kyle Williams wants a 295 guy instead of a 320 guy. So, that is a part of the equation when it comes to maybe who's getting on the field. Tay mentioned my bro there. Like he knows him as well as anybody. He coached him in high school. That was his defensive coordinator. And so, like, is that more of the mold of the player that you want? We'll certainly find out as we get ready for this 2025 season. But that is something to pay attention to. Every position coach is going to maybe want a different style of player. We'll see if Kyle Williams maybe goes for a leaner player, where Bo Davis certainly, like, that's how he was molded. That's how he came up with Coach Saban and enjoying the bigger defensive tackles. And you might see a little bit of a change there at that position.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.